Hello. Oh, we had a little double intro song for you there. What a way to start the morning. We like to get a little juice before we dive into 2 hours of live impact news, and that is what we are here to do on this Tuesday morning. It is 10:01 a.m. It is November 11th. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. Where is Eugene? We got this guy again, and we've already had some shenanigans. I promise Eugene will be back tomorrow. You will be in good, secure hands once again. But for today, I'm going to do my very best to guide you through 2 hours of live impact news. My name is Connor Reel, and I am here with super producer Leah Britton. Leah, how are you today?
Doing pretty good, Connor.
Excellent, and we are not alone in this studio. We are joined, as you can see on our overhead cam, by the one, the only, Craig Moeller. Hold on, Craig. 1 second, because before we get to Craig, we would be remiss if we did not wish everyone watching a happy Veterans Day. We appreciate you taking time out of your holiday to spend with us. And if you are watching and you are a veteran, thank you for your service. Nothing we could say could ever be enough to thank you, but especially on this Veterans Day, we want to express whatever gratitude we can for everything that you have done for this country. Now, we will have plenty of Veterans Day events coming up. Lots of live celebrations that we will listen in on. You see one of them on your screen right now. We'll be taking that celebration live once it gets underway. That is in Washington, D.C. at the National World War II Memorial. But before we get to those Veterans Day events, well, before they get started, which they haven't yet, now we go to Craig Moeller. Craig, your patience is exemplary. It is only exceeded by your integrity. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
I wanted to give you the full experience and get up close to the microphone and say, hey, it's good to be here. Thank you all. Love it, guys. Yeah, just get up there. Just kind of keep it real. All right. Hey, it was so cold this morning.
That it was.
All right. We had temperatures to start our Veterans Day. We had temperatures down into the low 30s. We started off with a weather impact alert because it was so chilly, and not only cold, but cold and windy as well. I want to start off with a look at the sky view, and this is the Thompson Creek Window Company sky view from the Jordan Bridge. You look out there, it is beautiful. You can see all that sunshine. No worries, right? Well, that wasn't the case earlier. I was out in the Weather Impact Interceptor, and I saw snow. And you know who else saw snow? One of our other live impact news producers, Sarah Calloway. She sent in this picture from her back deck. Our own producer, Sarah Calloway, they're showing, again, that snow on the deck early this morning. Wasn't a heavy snow, but a little light dusting on elevated surfaces.
I mean, that's real. That's real snow right there. That's like footprints, and it's a little sticky, and you're definitely not going to be grilling anything on that beautiful grill that Sarah has there. That is not what I experienced at my place. That is some actual snow.
So you weren't believing us when we said that it was snowing across parts of Hampton.
There's never been a thing that you've said that I didn't believe, other than when you talk about the efficacy of Caleb Williams as an NFL quarterback.
Oh,
but
my goodness.
When it comes to weather, I believe everything that you have got to say, Craig.
We're gonna leave the Chicago Bears alone.
Okay, we'll leave them alone.
Bear down. Here's what we have for you guys. Temperature change. Talk about bearing down. You're going to need to do that to get through these morning temperatures if you don't like the cold. We have right now upper 30s, and I know if you're watching live impact news from another part of the country, there are areas like Philly and Jersey and New York. You know, you're going, this is nothing. Well, for us here in Hampton Roads, temperatures in the 30s or something. Then you factor in the winds. And look at these wind gusts, guys. We have winds gusting 35 to 40 miles per hour at Wallops Island. You can see Tangier Island. Manio with a gust of 30. We just had a gust of 29 down in Chesapeake. A gust of 32 in Virginia Beach at Oceana. 28 miles per hour there up at Langley Air Force Base in Hampton. It is breezy, so it feels like it's in the 20s. This is legit cold. And again, we did have that snow a little earlier. So today for our Veterans Day, we're going to see temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. Tons of sunshine now that all that snow is gone. But take a look at this loop. I'm going to show you how things played out. We did have snow across the area early this morning. Not a lot, but enough to leave a coating on some elevated surfaces early this morning. As I mentioned, it's all gone now. So what can we expect? Well, more sunshine throughout the day. It really looks good. Again, mid to upper 40s this evening, back down through the 30s. Overnight lows, mid to upper 30s near the coast, cooler inland. And then tomorrow, more sunshine, but southwest winds. Connor, highs tomorrow near 60. So it will be getting warmer. As for the next 7 days, yeah, temperatures staying near 60 Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then mid-60s Sunday into Monday. So
That's beautiful. That's just fine right there. I think that we're more than happy with what we see Wednesday through Monday.
yeah, now that we're past the super cold temperatures this morning, things really do look a lot better for us. And, you know, we keep it a little loose here coming into it on a good weather day. I have to say, as far as snow goes for Hampton Roads, it really doesn't get much better than what we saw. If you like the snowflakes, some folks were really excited to see some of those flurries. Maybe you woke up, peeked through your blinds. I always like to do that as a kid. You know, I would do that. Oh, is it going to be a snow day? Of course, with it being Veterans Day, a lot of kids are already off anyway, but it wasn't going to be enough to do that. It didn't really impact morning traffic that much, but it was pretty to look at. And now you can say Hampton Roads has had its first snow of the season.
We have our first snowfall now, November 11th. I guess November 10th it would have been, the morning of
11th.
November 11th, a little snowfall. How rare is this for us to get this early?
You know, I've been here in Hampton Roads since 1997. So we go in the Wayback Machine. I can tell you, I can recall, I think at least one Halloween, maybe two, where we had snow in the mix on Halloween. So, you know, that's a full 11, 12 days earlier. It's possible we get them. But this is the same place where you could literally have 80s on Christmas Day. So, you know, Hampton Roads is all over the place. And we went through a prolonged snow drought, like several years where we had no measurable snowfall at the airport. And to get a little coating of snow early this morning, kind of fun to see.
Hampton Roads, I like to call it Never Know November. Because in Hampton Roads, you could get anything. You could get up near the 70s, or you could have a nice blanket of snow.
I'm adding that right now to the list of things to mention about Hampton Roads weather. Never know November. I've heard of no shave November, but this is like no clue November.
You know? No clue November is good too.
No clue November. We have no idea.
We're going to need some publishing on that if anyone uses that in their stuff. All right, that's two good names right there. Okay, so things are looking good for the rest of the week. What else do we need to know here about this forecast?
The one thing I do want to mention, and let me see if I can pull this up. If you guys just give me a second. You guys know Feng Wong back over in the Philippines. You know, they were hit with that typhoon. It has cleared the Philippines. The number of fatalities has gone up a little bit. They've seen that number going up, and it is taking aim on the southern part of Taiwan next. I'll just quickly give you that. Let's see if I have. Let's see here. I'm trying to get back over on Weather One. But just to let you know, while the Atlantic Basin is quiet, and that is certainly good news, everybody is always concerned and interested to know what's going on there. I think I have it right here. It's so funny trying to get all of this stuff squared away. Long. At any rate, the very southern tip of Taiwan could see a tropical storm hitting it. So because we have such a military interest here, and we have such a large Filipino community, we've really been paying close attention to the tropics. Feng Wong was the 21st tropical system to directly impact the Philippines. You could see at 7 a.m. it was down to a tropical storm strength with 60-mile-an-hour winds gusting to 80, and the movement slowed to the northeast. You see the southern tip of Taiwan, it is forecast to just kind of brush by as a tropical storm. So just to keep folks with international interests up to date, I know everybody from around the world can find us here on Live Impact News, and we do want to give you the latest on that system. Other than that, the Atlantic Basin is quiet, and we're really in for just some really nice weather here as we celebrate Veterans Day and look out over the coming week.
Now, when we see activity like this in the Pacific, and you compare it to the Atlantic, in terms of the characteristics of the storm, are there differences?
Not really. I mean, a tropical system is a tropical system. You have, the ingredients come together. Obviously, we talk about this. There are typhoons over in the Western Pacific, hurricanes in the Eastern Pacific, in the Atlantic. In the Indian Ocean, they're called cyclones, tropical cyclones. So it's just a different naming, but it's basically the same structure. So you get, a lot of warm sea surface temperatures feeding a low-level circulation, light winds aloft, and they crank up. And that's what we were looking at. So really some interesting weather stuff going on. One other quick note, and I wish you guys had the video. We had it on the Weather Desk, which airs at 9 o'clock each morning right here on 13 News Now Plus. There was a volnado. Do you know what a volnado is?
This sounds like a science fiction film.
It does, right? Like
made up here.
Sharknado? No,
Right.
it's a volnado. No, near Mount Kilauea, during an eruption, thousands of feet, or 1,000 feet, you had ash and lava being spewed into the air. And there was so much warm air and instability, and warm air rises. There was enough wind circulating around it that you had particles from the volcano being picked up, and it created what looked like a volcano, or looked like a tornado, right there associated with the volcano.
Okay, combining two weather phenomenon into one here. We're gonna have to. We might have to go search that.
You
video
need to find
out.
that video.
Seek
Yeah,
that
well,
video
we
out.
had it on the Weather Desk, and maybe you guys can show. But really cool stuff.
And that type of thing, you guys see that back in our weather lab, and that's when you guys start to really get like excited, right? That's the things that get you going.
I'm telling. I was excited being out in the Weather Impact Interceptor. So if you're into the weather like we are, it's a lot of fun.
Now let's do a very brief check-in on. Oh, do we have the video?
Oh, let's take a look.
Leah,
All right,
super
there you
producer
go.
Leah
All
to the
right,
rescue
that's
here.
fantastic. See, and I was giving you trouble about leaning into the microphone. All right, look at that. So you've got that volcanic ash spewing into the air, and then right alongside, because that air is so warm, you get updrafts. Those updrafts can rotate. They start to draw in some of that ash and some of the particulate matter around there, and it's similar to like a firenado, but it's literally a product of the volcano. So, again, and this is happening in Hawaii, that's Mount Kilauea there. People are safely observing Kilauea. It's been extremely active, so that's what you're seeing there. That's not a hazardous situation for those people. But to be treated to a volcano.
They stayed within the cones.
Yeah, that is the cone of safety and certainty there.
Right,
they are
right.
outside the danger area. But it really is something, and that's spectacular.
That's incredible. It's hard for me to even make out exactly what I'm seeing when it comes to the two sort of volcanic columns there.
And that's just lava spewing into
That's
the air, and you
lava
get
spewing
you
out
get a
there.
lot of the ash, and you see again those particles being lifted. Just that warm air, quite basically, warm air rises. That's why hot air balloons are buoyant and they go up, because the colder ambient air around that hot air balloon is cooler, so the warm air rises. Same thing with that column of rotating air. That volcano.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
That's-
if that was all closer to the coast and they sucked up maybe a couple of sharks and you had a shark volcano,
right.
we'd break the internet.
Not that far-fetched after all.
It would be broken.
That's right. That's right. Or it doesn't have to be sharks. Perhaps a minnow or a guppy-nado or
A
something
guppy
like that,
volcano,
right?
yes.
Maybe
I
a
think
crab-nado.
We've officially taken this weather update sideways.
Yeah.
but-
Now, to bring it back to weather update, if you touched on this briefly at the top, I apologize. Is there anywhere in the Midwest that's receiving dangerous levels of snowfall right now?
No, this has really been more of a Northeast U.S. thing,
Okay.
and I was going to try to take you up there. There are places up in the Northeast, and I'll just go ahead and quickly pull up a radar image here. As my computer's loading up, you should see it on Max 1 here.
Yes.
And let me pull up there. Okay, what you're seeing right now, we've got some very cold air that is coming down across the Great Lakes region on the backside of the system. So right in here, you see that northwest flow. You are getting some bay enhanced, or I say bay, I'm so used to covering the Chesapeake Bay. That is lake effect
That's
snow
right.
coming up the Great Lakes. You're seeing a little bit of that around Lake Michigan. But what's really cool, and again, you guys are getting me to weather nerd out here a little bit, so I appreciate you guys giving me the forum to do this.
We
But
welcome it.
I'm going to show you here just off our coast something here as I bring this over. And if we zoom in a little bit, let's go the other way. There we go. We zoom in a little bit. You will notice just offshore, do you see those little streaks? Okay, and I'll try to draw a little bit of a wind field here so you can see, there, and watch one more time, right in there. Okay, you see how in the latest frames right in there, how they turn and kind of follow those arrows. All right, what you're getting there is very cold air pushing over the warm ocean water. So that is essentially the same lake effect machine that is creating the snow coming off around Buffalo, Rochester, Chicago was seeing some lake effect snow.
Right.
You look there and you see those columns or streaks of clouds there. Now, why isn't it happening closer to our coast? Why do we have that gap? And then you go offshore and you see it. Why do you think? Connor, I'm challenging you. This is a teaching moment.
Why is it happening a little further out into the ocean? Well, naturally, the weather conditions, once you get further out into the Atlantic, create a more sustainable environment for that type of weather reaction.
He writes essays like in high school where he just fills his 500 words with whatever. Yeah, very sustainable environment. Good choice. No, what's going on there? Well, a couple of things. So the warmer water, at the coast, that has to rise and release some of that low-level vapor into the air that gets picked up. Again, that warm air rises, and that colder air that is sweeping in through our area this morning kind of picks that up and allows it to rise. That process takes a little bit, but also keep in mind, offshore you have the Gulf Stream. Right. And where the waters are warmer, that's where you're seeing more of those streaks. So near the coast, the waters are a little chillier, and you're not seeing it. Takes a little bit longer for it to kick up. I just thought I'd pass that along.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we invite Weather Nerd Corner is one of our favorite segments. We hope to have a little bit of that every time that we get the forecast. It's a good mixture because you guys do such a good job of conveying to people, hey, wear a jacket. Here's what it's going to feel like. Here's what you need to know. But we also like to dip into a little bit of the why. It's here on Live Impact News. Okay, fantastic.
Connor, outstanding job of making this a safe and sustainable place for me to discuss the weather.
That's the goal, a safe and sustainable environment here in the Live Impact News studio. I thank you so much. We know you have a ton of work to do today. You got some extra stuff going on. And so good luck shooting all of our, you're the face of this operation.
I don't know about that, but we do have promotional shoots, some other things. One other quick note before I jump. Garden of Lights out at Norfolk Botanical Garden. We're actually having a daybreak kind of a meetup thing out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Our crew's going to be out there. So if you've ever thought about checking out the Garden of Lights, we'd love to see you come on out. We're doing holiday salutes and having a great time at Norfolk Botanical Garden.
When is that?
It's Friday.
That's this Friday. And what time can people see you guys
after the sun goes down? I guess right around 5 o'clock. Which, by the way, have you noticed the sun now setting? 4:58.
I know. I've been walking out of this building and it's already dark.
Yeah.
There's a nice sunset off the horizon of our station, though, so you got to kind of enjoy that a little bit. Do you want to do 30 seconds on future NFL MVP Caleb Williams and the red-hot Chicago Bears?
I got to tell you, 6-3, the Bears are looking good. A little concerned about the defense, very depleted with injuries, but I have faith in head coach Ben Johnson.
And once they're down 7 to 10 points, then it's go time.
Yeah, well, just if they're within, we'll say, a touchdown or two in the fourth quarter, look out. The team's got some fight.
All right, we'll keep checking in.
We'll see what happens. I'm not putting carts before horses, but I'm liking the direction.
We'll see what happens. It sounds like those carts are maybe even with the horses right now. We'll see if they pull ahead as the Bears season progresses. The Chicago Bulls don't look too bad either with the NBA season ramping up. All right, Craig, you're the man. Thank you so much as always, and good luck with everything you've got to do today. Now, for us here in the Live Impact News studio, we've got two Veterans Day events that look like they are going to start very soon. You see both of them on your screen here. But what we did was we had one Veterans Day event that was underway as we did our forecast, and we actually recorded that event. We want to make sure that we get as much time as we can in I just combined the two words I was trying to say. Honoring and celebrating veterans here in the United States of America today of all days. And so why don't we see if we can pull up that recording, Leah? It should be in the encoder any moment now. And we can pull it up and we can play that video. We can take your time. I know that it takes a while for it to upload. It should be in the media encoder file within the next couple minutes, and we can play that video. And so I want to listen in on some of those comments that took place just moments ago at a Veterans Day event, also at the National World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. We had some speakers at the podium, and there was a number of people up on stage or up at the front of the video. And so we want to listen in on that. We want to make sure that we kind of cherish what this day is and what it represents, and we get every piece that we can out of those experiences. And, in the meantime, while Leah is getting that set up, I'm going to do a very brief update for you on a couple of things that we are looking at here just overall. I mean, right now, airlines are under duress at this point in time. Air travel disruptions continuing on this Tuesday across the United States. More than 1,100 flights canceled before dawn, according to abcnews.com. So, with this government shutdown stretching into now day 42, airlines continue to suffer as federal workers who are not getting paid are still being asked to show up to work and keep our aviation industry running smoothly. And now you also heard me say government shutdown day 42. You may be thinking, well, that's confusing because yesterday we reported on this major breakthrough that had happened, and that remains true. Sunday night, a bill passed through the Senate that was a funding bill. That bill was then approved last night by the Senate, and currently the House of Representatives is on their way back to Washington, D.C. for them to vote on that funding compromise. It could pass as soon as Wednesday, which would then end the longest ever U.S. shutdown. So really right now, funny enough, we mentioned how difficult the travel situation is here in the United States. Funny enough, we're waiting on members of the U.S. House of Representatives to get back to Washington, D.C. in order to vote on a funding compromise that would end the government shutdown, and then steps could be taken towards fixing some of the travel issues that we're experiencing. But it's not something that's going to get fixed right away, unfortunately. As again, this record-breaking shutdown hits day 42 today, but the end is in sight, and I'm getting the thumbs up from Leah. We've got some sound here from World War II Memorial Veterans Day celebration, so let's listen in during this holiday morning on Veterans Day 2025.
Honor today. To our World War II veterans, thank you for your courage, your sacrifice, and your enduring love of America. We honor you today and every day.
Thank you, Jane. Next, we welcome Mr. Alex Kershaw, best-selling author of a dozen books, including The Bedford Boys, The Longest Winter, and The Liberator. Alex serves as resident historian for Friends of the National World War II Memorial, sharing stories and lessons of the greatest generation with students and communities across the nation.
Good morning, especially to our huddled masses over here by the memorial. Thanks for turning out. Today we observe Veterans Day, honoring the 16 million Americans who served in World War II, along with veterans from all wars. Armistice Day was renamed Veterans Day in 1954 to recognize all who have served in every conflict, a change enacted by President Eisenhower, Allied Supreme Commander in Europe during World War II. Of the 16 million who served, 3/4 did so far from these shores. Today, it is estimated that fewer than 50,000 of these World War II veterans remain with us. Within a decade, that number will be less than 1,000. We are deeply grateful to the World War II veterans with us here today. Thank you so much. 80 years after the most impactful war ever fought came to an end. We thank them and veterans of all wars for serving this great nation, for protecting us and our freedoms. At this sacred spot today, we pledge to always remember, honor, and celebrate those who served a cause greater than themselves. We owe the men and women who won World War II everything.
Thank you, Alex. It is now my great honor to introduce our World War II veterans. Vitold Brick, 102 years young. As a young Polish resistance fighter, Vic fought bravely in the Warsaw Uprising against occupying German forces. After surviving the brutal 63-day battle, he was captured and endured a forced march to a POW camp in Ziegenhain until his liberation by General George S. Patton's troops. Vic later immigrated to the United States, built a career with DuPont, and became a proud American citizen. Let us honor Mr. Witold Brick. Colonel Frank Kaine, 100 years young. Born in Germany in 1925, Frank escaped Nazi persecution at age 13 and later served his adopted country in the United States Army, fighting in the Battle of the Bulge, the Rhineland and Central Europe campaigns, meeting Russian forces at the Elbe River. His distinguished 35-year military career spanned World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Let us honor Colonel Frank Kaine. Mr. Roy Mullen, 101 years young. Roy enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in 1942, served throughout the Pacific Theater's fiercest campaigns, from the Marshall Islands to the Marianas, rising to Master Technical Sergeant. After the war, he continued serving his nation at the United States Geological Survey, pioneering key innovations. Let us honor Mr. Roy Mullen. One more round of applause for all our World War II veterans.
All right, so there you have it. A brief video that we got there, but impactful nonetheless, as you see World War II veterans being honored during that ceremony at the National World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. A piece of history that, of course, with every year grows further and further apart. And with that, the memory of it, conversation around it, and things of that nature do tend to become less and less as well. Always important to keep that alive and keep honoring the people who fought for freedom in those moments. And today, a perfect chance to do that. And that happening at the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. You saw them honoring a 102-year-old veteran at one point there during that event. So some really impactful stuff. And again, we'll have more to come on Veterans Day. We have a live feed up right now of Arlington National Cemetery. That's on the bottom of your screen. Earlier in the stream, I mistakenly identified that as the World War II Memorial. That on the bottom of your screen there, that's the Arlington National Cemetery. That is where we expect President Donald Trump will be shortly to give remarks and to honor veterans on this holiday. So keeping an eye on that, we will take you live out there when the president arrives and when he or if he takes the podium. We'll certainly bring you live out to Washington, D.C. Okay, or out to Arlington, rather. Now, for now, let's continue to go through the government shutdown. Let's continue to examine the place we're in on day 42. Day 42 that may be confounding because all recent reporting has been around deals that have passed through. A Sunday special session, a deal got approval to be voted upon. Yesterday, that deal was approved by the Senate. Now, it awaits approval from the House of Representatives. Now, how did that deal go through on day 42? How did that funding deal go through, a compromise, when it hadn't gone through for the 40 days before it, right? Well, 8 members of Senate Democrats crossed the aisle to join with Republicans, giving Republicans the 60 votes that they needed in order to pass that compromise through. Now, one Republican voted in opposition, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. Outside of that, every Republican voted yes, and 8 Democrats came across the aisle to vote that funding compromise through that will now go to the House. So what are we looking at here? Well, the deal would restore critical services like federal food aid. It would pay for hundreds of thousands of federal workers. It would reopen the government for all intensive purposes. But what it would not do is ensure protections for premium tax credits for Affordable Care Act beneficiaries. That is what Democrats have been fighting for. That is what Democrats have been holding out for. That is the core issue that has kept Democrats and Republicans from coming to an agreement up to this point to reopen the government. And that is something that Democrats did not get in this funding compromise. They did not get guaranteed protections for those premium tax credits to potentially save millions of Americans from either having their premiums spike to unspeakable levels when it comes to their health care, or losing their health care altogether because they simply cannot afford it. So the Democrats do not get that. What did they get? What did the 8 Democrats who crossed the aisle to vote yes on this funding compromise get? Well, they got a guarantee that there will be a future vote on a health care bill of their choosing. The promise of a future vote on a health care bill of their choosing, in which Democrats hope that they can then accomplish their goals. So that is the position that we are currently in when it comes to this government shutdown. It has been a long 41 days, now on day 42. It looks like the government will reopen soon, albeit with the caveat that Democrats did not achieve those protections that they were looking for, or certainly did not achieve them yet. We will keep an eye out for that future vote, that future health care bill, in hopes of protecting the millions of Americans who could be in danger of losing their health insurance or facing major economic instability if those premium tax credits are not extended for the Affordable Care Act beneficiaries. Now, what of our 2 senators here in Virginia? What of Mark Warner and Tim Kaine? Mark Warner voted no to this funding compromise. Mark Warner voted no. He did not approve this bill. Tim Kaine, one of the 8 Democrats who did cross the aisle to vote yes for this bill. So Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia, one of the 8 Democrats who did vote to pass the funding compromise and reopen the government. So the question is, why? Well, Tim Kaine spoke with Virginia reporters yesterday in which he went over his reasoning behind his vote. We know that this is yesterday's press conference, but we think it's important that we spend as much time on this as we possibly can, especially with one of Virginia's senators being one of the members of the Senate who chose to vote yes, or members of the Democratic Party in the Senate who chose to vote yes, and then speaking directly on his decision. We think there's value in playing this soundbite again. So that's what we're going to do for you here now today. We'll meet back in the Live Impact News studio afterwards and figure out where we want to go next. All right, now as you can see there, Tim Kaine's soundbite froze. If you've been following us here on Live Impact News for a while, that does tend to happen sometimes. It is a bug that we have been trying to work out. Now, unfortunately, I spoke for far too long leading up to that soundbite. So the last thing you want to hear is me speaking more now while Leah reconvenes the soundbite and gets it working once again. But that is the situation we were in, and we will have that soundbite up and ready to go for you very shortly. Leah, good to go? Okay, we are good to go. We got Tim Kaine back up. Now let's listen in to the senator from Virginia.
I just really want to talk about the work that went on over the weekend that has found a path to reopening government. You guys know that I have been voting with the Democrats against the Republican House funding proposal, and I've explained in the past why. It was put together with no Democratic input on specific instruction of President Trump. And then he basically said we Democrats had to vote for it, even though he refused to engage with us. There were some really important issues that we wanted to engage on. The spiking costs of healthcare that the president's reconciliation bill are imposing on Americans, so many in Virginia. And then I have had a particular desire to engage with the president on his mistreatment of federal workers. Virginia is home to, by some estimates, as many as 320,000 federal workers, and then the federal contracting community is probably every bit as large. The president wouldn't engage. We couldn't find a path forward. The shutdown began on October 1, and we kept urging the president to engage. Meanwhile, the Senate has stayed in session working on important issues like trying to combat President Trump's tariff chaos and get answers about military strikes in the Caribbean and the Pacific. And we've been here working nonstop and always trying to get the president to engage around the shutdown. After the elections in Virginia last Tuesday, which I threw myself into those pretty heavily and was traveling significantly around the state, I kind of assessed on Wednesday, where are we? There was a bipartisan group trying to find a path out of the shutdown. I was not part of those discussions up till then, but was offering them my ideas. But as I looked at where we were on Wednesday, it became pretty apparent to me that this was the state of play. We wanted to fix the ACA tax credit issue, but we had no path to do so because the Republicans at President Trump's direction had said they would not even entertain any discussion about healthcare until the government was reopened. And second, the shutdown of government was imposing significant pain on Virginians, federal workers missing paychecks, SNAP beneficiaries starting to get their benefits cut by President Trump withholding monies, but also just the timing and some of the SNAP cuts that were made by the Republicans in the reconciliation bill were really starting to pinch the 800,000 plus Virginians who get SNAP benefits, air traffic becoming very, very chaotic. And so where we were when I really had the chance after the elections to kind of assess this was we had no path forward on healthcare as long as the government was shut down, and SNAP beneficiaries, that 45 million Americans, 1 in 8 most vulnerable Americans, were hurting along with so many others. And so I decided to then join the discussions to try to find the path out and brought to the table an issue that wasn't subject to the negotiation really before I got there, which was how to treat federal workers. The group that was around the table before me had gotten as much as they could get from the Republicans on healthcare and the tax credit issue, which was an agreement once government was reopened to hold a vote on the floor of the Senate within a month on a proposal that the Democrats designed to fix the ACA tax credit mess created by the reconciliation bill. That had already been negotiated, and that was as far as the Republicans were willing to go. The issue about SNAP funding and funding of other programs had already been negotiated by the appropriators, so much so that we are able to get a full year of SNAP funding and some other important priorities like the VA and WVEC programs and military construction. That had been well negotiated. But the piece I brought to the table was protecting federal employees. And what I asked the White House beginning on Friday afternoon is, you got to make sure all furloughed employees come back and they all get paid. I got a back pay bill passed in 2019, but the president was sort of threatening to decide who would get paid and who wouldn't. You've got to bring back all the RIFT employees that you RIFT when the shutdown, since the shutdown started on October 1, and make sure they get back pay. But then the ask that I had that was the hardest for the White House, and now the White House was finally engaging after the president got a major drubbing in the elections last Tuesday, after he has watched his popularity decline, the White House was finally engaging to find a path forward on government funding. And I said, I want a guarantee of no rifts in the future, no more of this mass layoff stuff that is making every federal employee wake up and check their emails first thing in the morning to see if they got an email from the Doge brothers or somebody else telling them that their careers of public service are now terminated. no more mass firings, no more rifts going forward. We communicated that demand through Leader Thune to the White House about 5:30 on Friday. And I spent all weekend long negotiating back and forth with Leader Thune and the White House on these provisions. We were able to pretty quickly land on the back pay and restoration of RIFT employees. But they really were reluctant to give me the pledge on no rifts going forward. I got that at 4:45 yesterday afternoon, and that enabled me to say that I was going to vote yes on this bill. And so here's what we got. Instead of no path forward on ACA fixing, we have a guaranteed vote coming up within a month on a proposal of the Democrats' design. We're designing a proposal to try to get Republicans on board. We don't have a guarantee, but we have a guarantee of a very high stakes debate and vote on the Senate floor in the full view of the American public, without the background noise of shutdown consequences drowning out the critical nature of the healthcare debate. We have come up with a full year of robust funding for SNAP and other important programs so that those 45 million, but also our passengers and air traffic controllers and folks who were suffering during the shutdown, that will now be over. And finally, we have gotten these protections for federal employees, restoration to your job, back pay, and no rifts going forward. With those 3 points established, I signed on at 4:45 yesterday and feel very, very good about it. Controversial, tough call. Some of my colleagues don't like it. My governor-elect is very happy with it. And my interactions with Virginians thus far demonstrates that they're also quite happy with it. With that, I'm glad to open it up and take your questions.
Everyone, we have a lot of reporters on, so please stick with one question, and if the center.
All right, welcome back into Live Impact News. There you heard a lengthy discussion, or a lengthy statement at least, from Senator Kaine about his decision. Again, one of the 8 Democrats to break from the party and vote to pass that spending compromise through to reopen the government, and he gives a lengthy explanation right there. Now, Senator Mark Warner decided not to vote on for the funding compromise. He decided to stay with the majority of Democrats in the Senate and not vote for that compromise. He also gave his explanation yesterday. So we're going to listen in on Senator Warner, and he gives his explanation for being a no vote when it comes to pushing that funding compromise through. Let's listen in.
I voted no on the deal last night, and I want to tell you why. Virginia's been particularly hard hit by this now record government shutdown. Federal workers, contractors, many of the folks, for example, who are clean the federal buildings, they're contractors. They're never going to get back pay even after the government reopens. And I was glad to see that there were additional protections put in to make sure there won't be additional rifts during this shutdown. But we have seen this administration use cruelty to an unprecedented level. The idea that the Trump administration went to the Supreme Court to try to stop SNAP benefits from going out. 1 out of 8 Americans, 800,000 plus Virginians, they're not going to eat without those SNAP benefits going forward. So I couldn't vote for something that didn't address the healthcare crisis that is imminent. Virginians are already seeing their rates double and triple who buy through the marketplace. I've heard too many stories about the untenable personal crisis people are going through at this point. So I was not only a no, but I was a strong no. We've got to continue this fight on healthcare. We've got to continue the ability to try to make Virginians and Americans' lives more affordable. This president has delivered nothing, and it's downright galling to see him trying to say, oh, prices are going down. Well, he obviously hasn't been to a grocery store. So this fight continues. We will resolve the issue on healthcare. We've got to make sure people don't face this unnecessary cliff. So many of my Republican friends have said, trust us, we'll work with you. Well, they'll have that chance going forward. The healthcare crisis continues. We've got to get it resolved.
All right, so that was Senator Mark Warner. You have heard now from Senator Mark Warner and Senator Tim Kaine on their reasoning for their respective votes on that funding compromise. Now we look forward to the government likely reopening after the House vote tomorrow. Then we will see how quickly all of the programs, the aviation system, federal workforce, how quickly all of that can get back up and running and paid and funded once the government is reopened. So a story that we will still continue to cover quite a bit here in the weeks to come on Live Impact News and on 13 News Now. Okay, let's get back to our Veterans Day celebrations. A holiday on this Tuesday here. Many people off of work, hopefully here watching Live Impact News, and a day where we celebrate veterans who have sacrificed so much for the freedoms that we all enjoy here in the United States of America. Now, two events on your screen. On the bottom, we've talked quite a bit about the ceremony that we expect President Donald Trump to speak at later today. On the top is what appears to be a very unique event. It is the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. It's the most iconic memorial according to the cemetery's website. It stands atop a hill overlooking Washington, D.C., and since 1921, it has provided a final resting place for one of America's unidentified World War I service members. Unknowns from later wars were added in 1958 and 1984. Now, the tomb has also served as a place of mourning and a site for reflection on military service. Mourning, reflection, honor, all things that we try to practice today on Veterans Day. So let's go live out to this event at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery.
At close interval. Right. Right. At close interval. Left.
At close interval. Rest. Right. Drop.
At close interval. Left.
Hut. At close interval. Press right. Stand. Good.
Ready front. Ready front. Ready front.
Ready, front.
Ready front.
Ready, front.
Five. Attention. Toe. Attention. Toe. Right shoulder up. Five. Carry. 5, time. Left wheel. March. Hot. 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 Forward. Halt. Halt! Left wheel, march! Ready? Yeah.
All right, back in the Live Impact News studio, a chance to get a look at that ceremony happening right now in Arlington, Virginia. Really some special things on our live feeds on this Veterans Day that we're able to actually listen to and watch and help us to celebrate this holiday and to honor those who this holiday is meant for. So glad we got to listen in on that, and more to come here on Live Impact News in that same vein. For now, we're going to get back to some local news that took place last night here in Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach to be specific. On Monday night, the Virginia Beach School Board voted on the future of a school program that gives middle school students the chance to learn both English and Spanish. This is following weeks of discussion, finally a decision made on the middle school Dual Language Immersion program. It was back in October. Virginia Beach School Board was presented with options for both eliminating the program or consolidating it to just one middle school. Now, we'll go ahead and reveal now a 9-1 vote on Monday. They decided to keep the program, but to shrink it down to just one school. But last night, based on what we have here from our coverage, a number of students, prospective students, what looks to be kids who will be a part of that school system, were a part of the public forum aspect of the school board meeting that they held. That is something that is unique, and so we want to listen in and see if we can get a sense of what it was like in there as kids took to the podium to voice their opinion on the educational system that will impact them more than anyone else. A very interesting time at the Virginia Beach School Board. So let's go ahead and listen in on that event, and we'll meet back here in the Live Impact News studio after checking it out.
And I call for the votes to approve the October 28th, 2025 meeting minutes.
So, Madam Chair, we have 9 ayes and 1 abstention, so the motion did pass for the approval of the October 28th meeting minutes.
Thank you. All right, we are now on to public comment portion of our agenda. We will hear public comments on matters related to pre-K through 12 public education in Virginia Beach and the business of the school board and the school division from citizens and delegations who signed up with the school board clerk prior to noon today. The purpose for the public comment section is for the school board to offer an orderly forum to receive public comments during the school board meeting. I call upon all speakers and all persons in the chambers to be civil in discussion and decorum. Whatever views you wish to express, the school board wants to hear from you and to ensure that all viewpoints and perspectives are heard. The best way to do this is for all of us to strive for civility and respect. Madam Clerk, would you please introduce the first speaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to note that speaker number 5 on the public comment, the not student, Cody Connor, had to cancel this evening. So we'll start with our student speakers. We have Gilly McAllis, Rosita McAllis, and then Amelia Jimenez.
Vote for option 1.
Okay. So amigos. That's it. Yeah, thank you. Say thank you.
Thank you.
And that microphone will lower a little bit if it helps. Never mind.
Good job, Rosita.
I love the DLI program because it taught me how to find new ways of thinking and helped me understand others. I also think we should have a DLI middle school so that way I can learn with my friends that have been with me since kindergarten. Since we've been together for a long time, it would be nice to be together while facing a new school. Another reason we should have a DLI program is because a large branch of my family speaks Spanish, and it's important for me and my culture to continue learning Spanish. There are kids in my class who speak Spanish and help the English speakers learn Spanish, while the English speakers help them learn English. Please find a home for our program.
Our next speaker is Ella Einhorn, Sophia Shuck, and then Emma Nagel.
Hello, my name's Ella, and I want to keep the Spanish immersion program because a lot of my friends speak Spanish, and I think it's nice to learn 2 languages because it's really fun, and we can always speak Spanish.
Is that what I want to say?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay.
Hello, I'm Sophia, and I go to school at W.T. Cook Elementary in 3rd grade in the DLI program. And I think we should have the DLI program because we learn a new language, and we meet really cool people, and we get to know their cultures. So please keep the DLI program.
Hola, mi nombre es Emma y yo soy en 2º grado de Miss Carvalho. Y yo estaba haciendo el DLI para 3 años y yo intenta español muy rápido. If you didn't understand me, then you should go on to DLI so you can do that too.
Our next speakers will be Alberta McAllis, Bailey McAllis, and then Diane Muscovak.
We were saying you're short. I know. Look, way taller. Yeah, good evening. Today's vote is an important one, which is why I decided to leave my sweater behind and dress up for you today. Now, on a serious note, I'm here tonight asking you to please vote in favor of the new recommendation and to remember what you told us when you were seeking our votes. That you would listen to parents, value our voices, and include us in decisions that affect our children. When I was 8 years old, I moved from El Salvador to Long Island, New York. I started third grade, not knowing a word of English. From day one, I was bullied for sounding funny, for looking different, and for not adapting fast enough. I sat by myself on the bus and ate alone for weeks. Having no friends as a child is hard, it's confusing, it's lonely, and it's emotionally sickening. Trying to master English, a language full of silent letters, strange sounds, and words that mean more than one thing, was already hard enough, but I still had to learn math, science, geography, and everything else. It was overwhelming, it was isolating, and it was scary. The only time I felt like I belonged was during my ESL class, that 1 hour a day, when I could finally understand and be understood. That's why this program means so much to me. The Spanish-speaking children are in our two YDLI classrooms at Cook and Bayside are living a very different experience than I did. They're not limited to 1 hour of belonging. They are understood, supported, and celebrated all day long. They don't have to choose between learning and being themselves. And this isn't just about the Spanish-speaking students. The English-speaking children in these same classrooms are gaining just as much. Examples provided previously. Research dual language programs.
Okay, so a really interesting event there at the Virginia Beach School Board as the public forum filled with kids who are talking about an educational program that will impact them directly. Now, we may be able to listen in more on that, but we want to go back out to Arlington where the wreath laying is about to take place on this Veterans Day, one of the major events that comes with this holiday. This is, again, at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. We want to go back out there live for this particular portion of the event as we continue to honor veterans on this national holiday. As you can see, Mike Johnson in attendance, Pete Hegseth in attendance, a number of White House cabinet members here that we can see, or at least a cabinet member and the House Majority Speaker. So a number of important members of the Republican Party, the Trump administration here in attendance, and we'll continue to keep our eyes peeled for anyone else who may be at this ceremony on Veterans Day. Again, this is at the Arlington National Cemetery. We are told that President Donald Trump will be at this event at some point. We don't know if he plans on making an entrance during the portion that we're seeing right now, but we know that he plans on being at this event at some point. Again, all of this taking place to honor veterans on this national holiday here. So we're going to continue to listen in. We know that this is a little different than what we typically do here on Live Impact News, but it's a special day. It's a unique day, so maybe we'll do things a little bit differently here, and we'll just continue to listen in on this event for a little bit here and just see what's to come.
Praise God!
All right, so there you have it. From Arlington National Cemetery, the tomb of the unknown. We thought that we knew President Trump was going to be arriving at this event. We didn't know for sure if he would be at this portion. But as you saw, President Trump, Vice President Vance, entering the ceremony there towards the end, and along with the entire crowd. A wreath laying, a moment of silence, a number of proceedings there, all a part of honoring veterans who have served to protect our freedoms on this Veterans Day holiday. So, again, a different day than usual. Even me being here on mic talking over video like this as it plays live, slightly different than usual. But, you know, it's a different than usual day. So we want to make sure that we, take as many opportunities as we can here on Live Impact News to honor veterans and make sure that we observe this holiday, because it is an important one, especially here in Hampton Roads. As our local viewers know, this is unquestionably a military area, and so Veterans Day holding even more significance. Okay, now we're going to continue to monitor this event. As you can see, they are proceeding outward. We also have an angle of a podium where we believe Donald Trump will be giving comment that seems as though it's just down the street from the event you just saw. It also is at Arlington National Cemetery. So all of those are things that we are going to look to go to live as they begin. But for now, we have another sort of unique event here on Live Impact News. We are set up for a live interview with Jason Steele. He's a travel expert. We've got him up here on Microsoft Teams. We put him through incredible strain to get on Microsoft Teams. It's something we're still trying to figure out ourselves, Jason. We really, really appreciate you coming in and talking to us. I want to make sure we have your audio right. Could you give me, Jason, could you say hello just to give me a microphone check here?
Hello, how are you doing?
I am doing great. We've got you loud and clear. Thank you so much for your patience today. We really appreciate it. And thanks for doing this interview at all. Now, travel expert is the title that I kind of have for you here. Is there a different title that you prefer or that's more applicable in this situation?
No, that's applicable. I'm a travel expert. I'm an expert in travel rewards and credit cards. I also happen to be a commercial pilot, so that gives me a little bit of additional perspective on things.
Okay, you kind of all sides of this issue. Now,
yeah.
Obviously, our national aviation system is under heavy duress right now with this government shutdown.
Sure.
Can you sort of walk us through just how, well, perhaps I'll start in that as of today, I believe more than 1,100 flights were canceled before dawn today, according to a flight data tracker that ABC uses. So with that sort of foundational piece of information, could you maybe give us a little more context just as to how dire of a situation this is?
Well, if you're on one of those flights or you're scheduled to be on one of those flights, it was very dire for you today if you did not get to where you were going on time. Now, we happen to be in a little bit of a lull in the travel season, this pre-holiday lull. So thankfully, I think we will see a little bit of slack in the system. Been ordered to reduce their traffic by about 10%. And that 11,000 reflects roughly 10% of the nation's air traffic. The airlines are doing it in the best way they can by reducing these smaller aircraft first, domestic aircraft before international. I myself arrived from London a couple days ago, and our flight was early. I have a family going overseas today. They'll be flying between two United hubs to start. And United has said that they will maintain flights between their largest hubs. And other airlines have said the same. So your real problem is going to be if you have one of these regional jet flights, with 50 to 70 people on it, going to maybe a smaller market. There's when you're going to be most likely to find a travel delay or cancellation. With any luck, the airline will notify you in advance. Having a cancellation in advance is much more preferable to finding out at the airport as you're about to board. So with that in mind, hopefully most people will get to where they were going, but it remains up to you, the passenger, to be vigilant, check with your airline to make sure your flight is still scheduled, and look for alternatives if there's a delay or cancellation.
So there we have sort of a good overview that I think is going to answer most of my next question, which one, know what type of flights are more liable to be canceled. Number two, obviously if you can drive, if there's another way to get somewhere during this particular time period, please exercise that. And then, of course, stay diligent in checking your email, your updates, your alerts, so that you know the status of your flight as soon as possible. Beyond those things, is there anything else that passengers can do to ensure smooth air travel over the next, however long this lasts, I suppose?
Well, yeah. I mean, for example, I'm going to a wedding traveling from Denver to Atlanta on Friday, and that's just a 2-day drive. So driving is not going to be an option for me. The wedding will be over by the time I drive there. But what people can do is they can book a backup flight. Let's say they're able to book a refundable flight with their points and miles, or if they have the money, if they want to book a refundable ticket with their credit card. And so if flight A is canceled, they can get on flight B if that trip is very, very urgent. If they're going on some sort of trip that could be canceled, maybe they'll just take their chances with their original flight. But certainly if you're going to a wedding or an important business meeting, something that you just can't miss, having that backup, be it by car or train or a second flight that you can cancel. I've even heard airline CEOs recommending that, which is kind of unusual. But this is something we might do in other areas with a rental car or a hotel. If we absolutely have to have that reservation, having that plan B. As a pilot, I'm always looking for a plan B should my equipment fail. As a traveler, I try to use that same philosophy.
Yeah, and when we talk about plan Bs, I know that there's a lot of people. I had a friend who was flying this weekend, and he experienced significant delays to where he had to stay overnight at the site of his layover. And he told me that once they went to go find a hotel, all the hotels were booked because so many people had to stay in that area. And he also said it was a little bit more difficult finding an Uber, finding local transportation, because again, there was such a strain on that particular sort of industry or that particular process. Is this something that you think will bleed into other sectors of society, and how will those things be affected by this?
Yeah, when you have a travel meltdown, obviously it creates tremendous stress on the system. People often spend the night in the airport, which is something I'm not up for doing. But and here I'll put on my hat as a credit card expert. Many of your high-end rewards credit cards will come with a trip delay insurance. So should you be in the situation where your flight's canceled, the airline might say, there's nothing we can do. That was air traffic control. But the credit card issuer doesn't care. Your trip has been delayed. You can go out and seek that new hotel reservation, even if it's a little bit far from the airport. Maybe it's downtown. You can get meals. You can get taxis or Ubers compensated. So having that protection, it might be a little bit late now, but if you did use that credit card, look up that benefit before you need it. This has happened to me before, and sometimes the airline is willing to provide accommodations. They just might be out of accommodations. They might be accommodations that you don't want to stay in, or there just could be a 2 or 3 hour line of hundreds of people waiting for someone to manually fill out a voucher. So to avoid all of that, sometimes it's best to rely on that premium travel rewards credit card.
Yeah, and then to a further point that maybe I think people would potentially have this question. When you hear that there is a lack of employees, and obviously I know a lot of that is air traffic control, but just in general, people see the chaos that may be taking place at airports right now. They hear about a lack of employees, a lack of staffing. I think I would imagine some people may wonder, is it safe to fly? Even if my flight is not canceled or delayed, is it just as safe as it would be any other time to go and get on an airplane, to your knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, I have the utmost confidence in the safety of the American air traffic control system. Someone who is a passenger on aircraft, but also a pilot who communicates with air traffic control. We happen to enjoy a remarkably safe system. There was, of course, a tragic accident earlier this year, but that was the first major accident we've had, I think, in 10 or 15 years previously, which is levels of safety that we could have only dreamed of 30 or 40 years ago when, sadly, there were accidents multiple times a year. So the reduction of capacity was done for safety. I think capacity would be reduced further if controllers said that safety was being impacted. So I have no qualms putting my family members on scheduled passenger airliners, even during this shutdown and this reduction in staffing.
And as you said, for decades, it has been a remarkably safe system. Now, I know that in my social circle, at least, I'll speak just from a place of my own perspective. I know that well before this government shutdown, there were frustrating moments with airlines. And part of that is just the system. It's something that is highly complex that is being pulled off here on a day-to-day basis with thousands of flights carrying millions of people all around the country. And so understandably, there are going to be issues no matter what time of year it is or what year it is or whether the government is open or not. But I know from experience that delays and cancellations can cause frustration. And it's something that I have seen friends of mine experience, that I've experienced myself. And then you have a situation like this where, again, through no fault of the aviation systems, they are under a sort of pressure that is causing more delays and cancellations. And you know that in that event, now you're maybe waiting in a long line at a desk for customer service. And that customer service person is now has extra workload on their desk. And so it takes a little longer to get the email notification that you need for a voucher. And then it trickles on down the line. Is this something that you could see leading to long-term effects in terms of people's feeling towards the aviation system? Not to put the blame on the system itself, but is that something that you worry about in your line of work?
Frustration with the airlines has been around as long as the airlines.
Right.
And we're always frustrated with maybe a perceived lack of customer service, myself included. One of the ironies here with this situation is with the reduction of staffing at the air traffic control level and the reduction of flights, there's not a consummate or a commensurate reduction in the staffing at the airlines. So ironically, now that maybe they're dealing with 90% of their usual flights, they might still have 100% of the staff. Now, that's not going to be comforting to the 10% of people who maybe their flights have been canceled and are looking for customer service. But in general, I think we'll find more open gates, more staff members at the airlines that are not, under as much stress as they would be had they been operating 100% of their flights. So a little twinge of good news there. Going forward, I don't think we're going to see this being a major upset. I certainly can't predict what's going to happen in Washington, but there is indications that this shutdown could end soon. However, we're all going to have to be patient when that happens for it to kind of staff back up again at the controller level, at the TSA level, hopefully in time for the Thanksgiving travel rush.
Okay. So some things that may be a little bit smoother even under this current situation as sort of an unintended consequence or unintended benefit, I guess. All right. And the travel season is, of course, approaching. You mentioned how during this really, as things have gotten a little tighter, we're lucky enough to be in a bit of a down portion of the travel calendar. When it comes to, we know that it is very likely that as of Wednesday, the government will be reopened. How long do you see it taking for our aviation system to get back to normal?
Yeah, the key word you used there was absolutely correct, the word system. You can't look at controllers or TSA in the abstract. It's all a system that works together. Under the best of circumstances, it works very well. We all know when weather or other factors affect it, it tends to break down because of its extreme complexity. I would think that the disruptions will curtail through the weekend. And I think hopefully if we're back to full strength, so to say, we will have a smooth Thanksgiving. Again, hopefully the weather will cooperate with us then. But, I'm concerned about my family members' wedding this weekend. Hopefully things get back to normal by Wednesday. All of the family members flying in this case to Atlanta by this weekend, will arrive. And the happy couple that is trying to have all their family there will see that.
You make a fantastic point, right? The human element of this, which is it's so easy to forget that every day there are people who that is supposed to be the most special day of their life, whether it's because they expect friends and family to come to their wedding, potentially a spouse who is trying to get home to see a birth or for a child's birthday or for a major milestone. Every single day people need to fly places that have a major impact on, everyone's sort of emotional state for one reason or another. So, I love that you kind of brought that back around to that very human perspective. And I hope that everyone makes it to that wedding in plenty of time. I hope that there are no snags. I hope that you spend an immense amount of time on the dance floor. You deserve it, because I'm sure that this has been, a stressful time for you as well, being so deeply embedded in an industry that is going through some strife. I'm wondering, is there anything else that we need to know? Anything I didn't ask about that you think is important?
Yeah, it's all about attitude, I think. Everyone tends to get very stressed at airports, that's for sure. I think having that plan B, again, something I as a pilot always have to have, but I think passengers need to do that as well, to say, hey, this is a typical time. We're going to look ahead to see if we have another way of getting to our destination, should plan A end. Maybe, another thing you could take into account is the fact that airlines are offering, many airlines are offering free changes. So sometimes when weather has affected or potentially affected my travel plans, I elect to travel a day or two earlier when the airline offers that as a free change. So if that's a possibility for you, try to maybe get to your event a day earlier, try to roll with the punches, try to have a positive attitude. And we are very fortunate to have this very robust, normally air traffic control system in this country with safety. As I travel around to other countries, it's just not the normal thing for people to jump on airplanes the way we do in the United States so regularly. It's quite remarkable. So just keep that in mind and try to do the best we can and have a good attitude, especially towards the TSA or other members of the working, traveling community, some of which aren't being paid. Being nice to them, I think, is always a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a dose of perspective on how ridiculously efficient the system actually is most of the time. Now, before I let you go, our producer, Leah Britton, has a question for you as well.
Yeah, hi, Jason.
Sure.
I was wondering, as a
Hi, Leah.
pilot, can you speak to the importance of air traffic controllers? You mentioned people going without pay. What does them not being there do for the system?
Well, I encounter this a lot, when I go to, let's say, practice with one of my students at a local airfield. And if they're short of controllers, you can feel the stress in their voice. They might deny my request. They're fairly mundane requests to do some practice up there. And so in this case, they will delay takeoff, maybe even delay landings. Now, that's not to say, like I said earlier, that safety is affected. But as a pilot, you can hear the stress in their voice. You can hear them say, hey, I'm unable to grant your request. Try me again later. And that sends ripples throughout the systems. We as passengers on those airplanes might be hearing things along the lines of hey, we have an air traffic control hold. We have a delay. Sometimes frequent travelers say we're in the penalty box, to use kind of a hockey or soccer analogy. And that did happen to us last week when I was flying, and we just sat there for 45 minutes waiting. So it is frustrating. We just have to keep a positive mental attitude.
All right. Thank you so much, Jason. Just perspective from every angle that you could possibly, think of here, and some really, really great answers. And hopefully that was helpful to our viewers. It's certainly helpful for me and Leah to be able to just sit here and kind of talk this through with a system that, again, is so complex. And then we get these statistics about all these things that are happening during this shutdown. It's great to be able to sit down with you, get some perspective, get some information, and get a reminder to, do the best you can to be positive, because everyone is trying their best to make sure that travelers get where they need to go when they need to be there. Awesome. Well, Jason, thank you so much. Have a great time at the wedding. And again, our thoughts are with everyone. Or, you know what? Our thoughts are with the bride and groom, who hopefully can get all of their friends and family to celebrate their big day, including yourself. So be safe, and thanks so much for hanging out with us for a little bit.
Well, thank you very much. I'll be sure to share your thoughts with them.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. All right, back here in the Live Impact studio, that was Jason Steele, travel expert, with a lot, again, a really, really good perspective on how this government shutdown has affected the aviation system and the aviation system in general. And, hopefully things get cleared up by Thanksgiving. Families can get up in the air and go to see their loved ones and spend that valuable time together. Now, Thanksgiving, a holiday that is in the future. Currently, we are celebrating Veterans Day, and unbelievable timing. As that interview ends with Jason, it looks like President Donald Trump has taken the stage at Arlington National Cemetery, along with Vice President J.D. Vance. Now, they have not gone to the podium yet, but they have taken the stage, as you can see on your screen here. So we do expect the president to take the podium on this Veterans Day 2025. We thought that might be happening right then. It did not. I'm wondering, Leah, if we listen in, you and I regroup in the studio after that interview, and then we figure out when we might get words from the president and where else we need to, what other stories we need to check in on. Cool? Okay, let's go live out to Arlington National Cemetery for a brief moment.
Distinguished guests, please remain standing for the invocation given by Chaplain Kimberly Willis, Executive Director of Chaplain Service for the United States Department of Veterans Affairs.
Good morning. Let us pray. Eternal and ever faithful God, on this sacred morning beneath the quiet majesty of these marble arches, we gather in this hallowed place to pay tribute, to reflect, and to recommit. We come before you as a grateful nation, mindful of those who have donned the uniform, answered the call, and stood in the breach on behalf of freedom. You who chart the course of every life, know each one who answered to the distant horizon, to the storm-tossed sea, to the far-off watch. You have seen the quiet courage and the visible sacrifice, the sleepless nights, the lonely return, the unspoken burdens. You have carried the tears of family, the prayers of caregivers, and the hope of a grateful people. We remember those who fell, whose names rest beneath these stones, silent sentinels of our nation's promise. We remember those who yet bear in body or spirit the cost of service. Grant them your healing, your strength, and your peace. And to families who waited, who worried, who bore the weight of absence, extend your sustaining grace, O Comforter. We give thanks for the Department of Veteran Affairs, who daily honor our nation's sacred trusts. And we bless the veteran service organizations whose devotion ensures that no veteran stands alone. In honor of those who served, renew our covenant to tend the garden of democracy with vigilance and care, to serve with humility, to lead with integrity, to walk together as one people under your guiding hand. Underpin our labors with hope, our words with true, our action with compassion. Let freedom ring not only on the battlefield, but in the everyday lives of your people. God bless the United States of America, that we may be true to the promise entrusted to us, vigilant in peace, resolute in service, defender of justice, and steadfast in gratitude. It is in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. I am honored to introduce the 2025 National Veterans Day Observance co-host organization, the American Veterans, better known as AMVETS. The organization began in 1944 when 18 World War II veterans met in Kansas City, Missouri to form the American Veterans of World War II. Just 3 years later, President Harry S. Truman signed Public Law 216, making AMVETS the first World War II veterans group chartered by Congress. Over the decades, its charter expanded to include those who served in every era from World War II to today, including members of the National Guard and Reserves. Today, AMVETS focuses on critical veterans issues such as mental health, suicide prevention, and ensuring women veterans receive equal recognition and opportunities. Representing AMVETS today is National Commander Paul Shipley, a U.S. Army combat veteran who served from 2004 to 2014, including a deployment to Iraq. Commander Shipley is the first post 9/11 veteran and one of the youngest leaders in AMVETS' 80-year history. Please join me in welcoming National Commander of AMVETS and co-host of today's ceremony, Mr. Paul Shipley, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and deliver remarks. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Secretary Collins, and distinguished leaders of the Veteran Service Organizations of the United States of America. Good morning and happy Veterans Day. Today, as we gather at this hallowed ground at Arlington National Cemetery, we honor the brave men and women who have served our nation with unwavering courage and sacrifice. It is a solemn moment of remembrance, unity, and a renewal of our commitment to those that have served. Today is also a special celebration of all who put their lives on the line for the United States of America. AMVETS has a proud history spanning over 80 years. Today, our top priorities remain clear. We work tirelessly to prevent veteran suicide and veteran homelessness, because no veteran should be alone in facing these struggles. We promote awareness, prisoners of war, and missing in action issues, ensuring that no hero is ever forgotten. And we are committed to supporting veterans' families, help keeping them united through life's toughest challenges. As the host of this year's Veterans Day National Committee, AMVETS is honored to participate alongside dedicated Department of Veteran Affairs staff and our fellow veteran service organizations. Together, we organize this event to honor our fallen and to reaffirm our duty to those who have served. In the spirit of veterans serving veterans, I challenge each of us, whether here today or watching from home, to find ways to support our veterans, whether through a simple act of kindness, volunteering, or advocating for policies that make a difference. Your efforts matter. Because supporting our veterans is not just a duty, it's a reflection of our gratitude and respect. Let us remember today that their sacrifices have made the freedoms we enjoy possible. And let us pledge to continue serving, protecting, and honoring all who have served our nation. Thank you. God bless our veterans. and God bless America. It is now my humble honor to introduce the 12th Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs. Secretary Doug Collins is an accomplished attorney with more than a decade of legislative experience representing the people of Georgia in the state legislature and later the U.S. House of Representatives. As a U.S. Air Force Reserve chaplain, Secretary Collins has ministered to our country's military since 2002. He completed a 2008 and 2009 deployment to Iraq while stationed at Balad Air Base. Collins remains a colonel in the United States Air Force Reserve, and he previously served in the U.S. Navy Reserve. Please join me in warmly welcoming VA Secretary Doug Collins.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, all the VSOs, all of our veteran staff here today, and welcome you to a place in which we honor our veterans, those who have served. I tell you, it was an honor to be here, but it was an even bigger honor just over a year ago when the President asked me to take this job. And I asked him a simple question. I said, Mr. President, what would you like me to do? And he looked at me with a simple phrase. He said, take care of our veterans. I tell all the rest of the cabinet, I've got the best job in the world because I get to take care of the best people in the world, the veterans of the United States of America. And this president is firmly committed to making sure this happens. The VA is a different place today than it was just 9 months ago. 9 months ago, there was more of an inner reflection. Now it is an outer reflection. The only thing that matters at the VA is that the veteran comes first. All we do is not about a bureaucracy or where we're from. It's about the veteran who walks through our door. Without the veteran, we have no job. The VA now understands that we do nothing else except take care of the veteran and do things for them. And under that direction from the President, we have lowered backlogs. We have increased wait times. And yes, Mr. President, we get them to community when they want to go to the community to see those doctors. And that's all just in the first 9 months. But the best part of this is that there is something to understand. Is that Veterans Day, unlike the others we celebrate, is about everyday people doing extraordinary things. Veterans Day is about men and women who come from small towns, hamlets, villages, and big towns. And they make a decision in their life to raise their right hand and say, I'm committing to something bigger than myself. I am stepping forward where many will not. I am raising my right hand and committing myself to service to a country, as I said just the other day, to make and ensure that our military is the biggest and baddest in the world. Our veterans make that possible. It comes from people all over, as I served with in Iraq. What I love about Veterans Day is it tells the story of a young girl. She was in her early 20s. I met her on the fields in a wind just like this in the desert of Iraq. She had showed up late, and I was on the night chaplain run, and I'd always saw everybody else, but I didn't recognize her. And I walked up to the gate, and I said, where have you been? And I said, I haven't seen you here. She said, sir, I'm a little bit late deploying with my troops. I said, well, what was the reason? And I said, you could, I figured, why are you coming in 3 or 4 weeks later? She said, well, sir, just about 2 months ago, I had my daughter. And I looked at her and I said, and you came anyway. I said, you could probably got a deferment of that. She said, no, sir. She said, I'd go where my troops go. I go where they go. And that for the rest of the time I was there, we shared pictures of one growing up, a little one taking first crawls and moves and sharing it in the night sky over Iraq. That is a veteran who serves because they want to serve others. I remember an A1C who was on deployment. He came back and he said, I am now making big money. He said, I can actually help my family and I can buy Christmas presents for those that didn't get any last year. It's about the stories of those as a young man, and just a little bit young because he's in his 80s, at one of our VA hospitals in hospice, who I walked in on him just the other day, and he was playing on a keyboard, Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Veterans Day is about veterans that were not special necessarily when they came up, but they saw a vision and a calling, and they said, I want to be a part of our armed services. So when they raised their hand, they made a choice to become one of our favorite in the world, and that is a veteran who serves this country. So as we come to this day of service, this day of happy Thanksgiving for people who are willing to serve, I would just have one word from the half of this administration, and I want everyone to hear it clearly, whether you're in the media, Congress, or anywhere else. I'm a little bit tired of people saying that veterans keep getting stuff. No, veterans do not get anything from this country. They have earned everything that they are getting, and I am committed to making sure they will always have that from this administration and this VA, and that is my promise and this president's promise to you. And with that, it is my honor to introduce to you a father, a husband, and yes, for those in the audience, a Marine. Oh, come on, Marines. There we go. My Marines ain't letting me down on this one, because now I get to introduce the great Vice President of the United States. It is his honor. It is his Marine, and I'm making him wait just a minute. It is Mr. Vice President. He is ready to use.
Well, thank you, Doug. You're doing a great job at the VA, and I want to say just a couple of things. I've learned a couple of things from working so closely with the President of the United States. The first thing is that he loves our nation's veterans and has committed our nation's administration to putting our veterans first every single day. And the second thing I've learned about the President of the United States is that he really hates when somebody who's speaking before him goes on for too long. And so with that in mind, I have prepared a very brief and very inspiring 1 hour and 45-minute speech on this beautiful Veterans Day out here in the cold. But let me just give 3 very brief messages. First, to our nation's veterans, thank you. Thank you for serving and sacrificing. We've all got so many good stories of people that we served with over the years. During my 4 years of the Marine Corps, I met the very best of America. People who are willing to put on a uniform and risk their lives for their entire country. Just yesterday morning, I met people who lost limbs, who lost very, very important family members, who lost their psychological health, going out there and serving the United States of America. So whether you gave a little bit or whether you gave a lot, every single person who put on the uniform of this nation deserves our gratitude on this day especially, but every day. And so from the Vice President and the entire administration to our nation's veterans, thank you for your service, thank you for your sacrifice, and thank you for making us proud every single day. The second message is to the nation's political leaders. I happen to believe that the most valuable resource that we have isn't the incredible wealth of natural resources of this country, as amazing as it is. The most important natural resource that we have is that we have hundreds of thousands of young people every single month who sign up to put on the uniform and risk their lives for their fellow citizens. That is a resource we cannot squander. That is a resource we must protect. And so, to every elected official who's here today, our obligation, our sacred responsibility to our veterans is to make sure that the American military is the bravest and best fighting force anywhere in the world, and to make sure that every time we ask our nation's military to go off to war, we give them the training, we give them the resources, and we give them what they need to kick the enemy's rear end and to come back home safely and quickly. That is our obligation to you. And my third and final message to the American people, I'm asked all the time how to best honor our veterans. And this day in particular gives you an opportunity, and it doesn't have to be difficult and it doesn't have to be complicated. If you find yourself at a restaurant this evening and you see somebody wearing a uniform, buy them a meal if you're able, or buy them a beer. If you see a veteran of our nation's armed forces, if you know somebody in your family, give them a call and say thank you. I heard already this morning from my mother-in-law who sent me a message early California time, and it touched my heart. Just knowing that we have loved ones who recognize our service, who care about it, and who care enough to go out and say thank you. So to the American people, if we want to keep on ensuring that the very best and brightest sign up for our military, the very best way to do it is to make sure that the veterans know that we are grateful to them. And so it's with great pride that I am introducing a man who is proud of our veterans, fights every single day.
Okay, so back here in the Live Impact studio, Vice President J.D. Vance wrapping up his remarks. We're assuming he's going to introduce President Trump.